Welcome to the New York City Elementary School Principal Association's 88th convention, first virtual. I believe last year we were in Midtown Hotel, and I look forward to next year where we will again be in person. So today I'm honored to be joined by two exceptional teachers. One is Denise Connolly, and the other is Melanie Fisher. And we will be talking about engaging all your students in tactile STEAM, even during COVID. And so by way of introductions, Denise Connolly is the lead STEAM educator at West Patton Elementary School in Westchester County. My name is Michael Schloff. I'm the founder at Maplewood Job. And then Melanie Fisher, who joins us by a video presentation, is an art specialist at Brooklyn Prospect Charter School. And each of these exceptional teachers has been pioneering STEAM in their own ways. And one common thread among many that we'll discuss is how they were able to take their programs and expand them using woodworking, which unfortunately these days is viewed as an exotic competency, but shouldn't be. It used to be very, very normal. And our mission at Maplewood Shop is to help develop life skills in all children through woodworking by making it exceptionally easier to implement than it had been in the past, by making it portable, safe, and by training teachers. So with that, I'm very happy to turn it over to Denise. Denise, can you hear us?
Yep. If Mike, if you don't mind presenting in full screen mode for me so that I can get a better visual on the slideshow, that would be awesome.
Absolutely, thank you.
So welcome and good morning. I'm very excited to be here. I just to give you a little background, this is my first year working with Mike, but I've been an educator in Bedford Central School District for 27 years. And I have been working in the area of enrichment and remediation since 2011. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of the history here. So basically in Bedford Central, what we had done traditionally in the 90s was we had a traditional gifted program in which students were pulled based on OLSAT scores, and there were two educators that would go around the district and provide servicing. That model evolved as times changed. Came one in which, and in about 2011, 2012, they created a new role called tiered support. That's the role I'm currently in. And basically the role was to have basically experienced teachers that had a lot of background in elementary education in each of the schools, provide both remediation and enrichment. Initially, we were doing the same type of model where we were using scores and just pulling out a select few students until I had attended a training at the University of Connecticut, Renzulli School of the Gifted. It's got a much more official name than that. In which they shared and presented a model called Schoolwide Enrichment. The model intrigued me because it was this idea that, you know, we all can, rising tides raise all sails. So we basically bring everyone up to the next level. And this idea of STEM and STEAM was really, you know, really coming across as the new way to hit the standards and have the students engage in hands-on, minds-on learning. So I brought this back to my district and I was very enthused about it. And I had gone to 2 different years of training under this model, and we began this at our school. At West Patton Elementary School, I was lucky enough to have a principal who said, just run with it. See where it goes. And so we began this model called Schoolwide Enrichment. It's a choice-based model. It's based on the idea that the students each semester get to select a class. And there's this cadre of classes that are presented. Started this model with 3rd grade through 5th grade. And these are, this slide that you're looking at now are just some of the classes that we had taught in 2019 and 20. And when I say we, the collective we is not only me, you know, pre-COVID, were 2 tiered support teachers. So my job times another one. And then the art teacher also was involved, the music teacher, the physical education teacher was also involved. Any classroom teacher that was interested. So we had a classroom teacher do some poetry in motion and some writing of a school newspaper. And then we also include the principal. She, Miss Bliss taught the, her passion is theater, and she taught a Shakespeare class, which is super cool, where the kids perform. So the idea is that a student chooses the class, it's a selection day, you choose your top 3 classes, and then you get one of those classes that you're assigned to for half a year or a full year, depending upon how the scheduling works. That's always, selection day is always, choice day is always a great day, and the kids are excited about their choices. And we really, you know, we created this model to include all of the students. So every student in the school who's, basically now the model's evolved even further. So now it's a K-5 model, but every student is involved regardless of their stature, their learning style, everyone is involved. And they get an opportunity to select the class, and there's this great level of excitement that they have, especially when the classes are revealed. So I'm going to share with you, so that's basically the model. So it evolved from a selective model to an inclusive model. Then the pandemic hit, and we had to figure out what we were going to do in these times. What happened was we realized that the culture of our school really valued the enrichment model, and specifically the STEAM and STEM classes that we were offering. So I sat down over the summer with the school principal, and we were trying to figure out, how do we go about offering this? The students love the opportunity to come and learn something just for the sake of learning, learn something outside of the regular curriculum. So how do we abandon that because of the pandemic? And we realized that we just couldn't. So we had to pivot, just like everybody else in worldwide had to pivot. So what we did was we basically looked at the units from the previous slide, and we kind of categorized them. And we said, you know, there were a lot of units on, you know, kind of getting outside, gardening, and I'll go through these in a little bit about like the other specific ones, but we categorized them: woodworking, engineering and design, and then coding and robotics and environmentalism. And we said that if we could offer this to the entire school during the pandemic, that would be huge. Again, my job is to do both remediation and enrichment. So I have to really take my time, which is divided between these 2 really important areas, and really create a balanced schedule for myself and for the school to provide the services. So when, at the beginning of the year, I think I need to share here how our school is operating under these COVID times. You know, we as a district, we were lucky. I think we as the teachers were lucky. We, right from the get-go, right in September, we brought back all of our kindergarten through 2nd graders. They came in 5 days a week, and we, you know, obviously by choice, if you chose not to come in, you were using a hybrid model. K through 2 actually had a fully remote teacher for those who did not want to come in. So K through 2 came in full time, and then 3 through 5 were, well, actually 3 through 12, but 3 through 5 for the purposes of this conversation were hybrid. So they came in 3 days and 2 days. So where does that leave me in terms of trying to offer these exciting and engaging programs to make learning fun, to learn something for the sake of learning? And really, quite frankly, our mantra has always been this idea of, you know, enthusiasm, engagement, and excitement. So how do we do that in this kind of these challenging times? So we're going to keep it. We were going to actually do to make my classes smaller because of the nature of the classes and the size of my classroom. I was actually going to offer 1 homeroom teacher, 2 sections per week. While I was teaching, one of their sections that they could be on with their fully remote kids 3 through 5. And then when those fully remote kids, because the hybrid model came in, then I would teach the students that were in and they could teach the other half of the class. So there was this balance that I was offering them an opportunity to just teach the fully remote kids while engaging the in-school students in hands-on, minds-on learning. So that was the model that we had to pivot to. You know, in the beginning, they needed me as a specialist because in first grade, there were 2 classes. We didn't have enough specials, so I was a specialist until January. And there's been a lot of flexibility that's obviously we've all had to undergo because of this pandemic. But I want to stick with what we did and what we did well. We kept the program going, which is what I thought was a great idea. We reduced my class sizes to allow for social distancing and a lot of space between students. We allowed the teachers to be available for the fully remote kids for one period, you know, within the week, so that they could really give them the attention that they needed, reducing their class sizes. And then we basically, within the classrooms, we had to really make sure that, because I'm teaching the whole school, that we were cleaning and cleaning the desktops and the materials between classes because of, you know, we wanted to make sure that the kids were safe. And we made sure they had their hands on hand sanitizer, so we made sure their hands were sanitized before touching the materials. Back to school-wide enrichment. So we at West Patton, we're sort of a well-kept secret. We've been doing this in some way, shape, or form since 2011-12. We formalized the program in our school with a prayer presentation and a brochure in 2014. And returning to that brochure today is fun because we're still doing exactly what we had proposed that we would do. The district itself is comprised of 5 elementary schools. And we geographically here in Bedford are pretty spread out. But our entire school district is very diverse. We have 32% or 53% free and reduced lunch. So we have a great difference between our students. And the beautiful part about school-wide enrichment is every student gets an opportunity. The district has been a little bit slow in moving this program along. Last year on the district goals for 2019-20, they had put it as a priority on our publicized goals. Obviously, things fell apart with COVID. So year once again returned to putting it back on our publicized goals. The other elementary schools are doing different types of enrichment. But this model of school-wide enrichment, which encompasses the entire school, isn't necessarily being done exactly the way we're doing it. So we're not piloting it anymore. We're just leading the way in terms of the program, and we have worked out all the nuances of how to give every student an opportunity to be part of an enrichment program. So what we've done, for instance, is we have over the past, probably the past 8 years, we've had lots of visitors. We've had BOCES come visit. We've had other school districts come visit. We've had really within district, we've had them come into the classrooms and ask us a lot of questions. How do we go about doing this? The classes that we teach are all standard based. We didn't want to become, you know, this after school program or some kind of club. So we kept it very academic. We post our goals and our objectives every day. And we wanted everyone to know that this was really a legitimate academic program. And, you know, some kids can come in and really kind of learn for what the teacher is teaching, and then other kids take it to the next level. And that to me is the most exciting thing. So we've had principals visits, we've had BOCES visits. It's on our district priorities and our district goals, which is really exciting moving forward. In fact, I just had a meeting yesterday with our coordinator of my department, which is the tiered support department. And, you know, really her vision now is to really spread school-wide enrichment in its purest form, you know, throughout the district, and allowing other, you know, children and students have the opportunity. And basically how that can get done is by empowering your teacher. There's a lot of teachers out there with tremendous, with passions and tremendous interests. And, you know, we try to keep the classes, if a teacher is excited about teaching something, then the students are gonna be able to know that right within the first 30 seconds of them walking in the door. So we really, when we design our classes, we really ask the teachers that have been involved just to do something that they really love, something that they could teach to others. And, you know, sometimes we repeat the classes every year because they're super popular. A lot of the times if the classes are less popular, we tweak them. You know, there is no set curriculum. It is what we created. It's very learner interactive. And, you know, our job is just to walk the kids through and be there, the Sally on the side, so that they can really engage in learning. So I was pleased to see this year, once again, the district is prioritizing it, or I should say reprioritizing it, because we didn't really get it off the ground last year, district-wide. So I really think that one of the reasons I'm here is to also speak about what's new. And, you know, many of those classes that you saw on that first slide, you know, as I said, we've repeated them year after year. One of the newer pieces that we added this past year was woodworking. And, you know, we really think long and hard about adding anything to our plate, unless it's truly researched and truly, like, we thought about woodworking for 2 years before we fell upon Maplewood and what they had to offer. We researched tons of different ways to do woodworking in a safe environment, one that could be flexible, so I could teach it as the STEM teacher and the art studio teacher can teach it as the art studio teacher, and quite frankly, so it could be rolled into the classroom and the classroom teachers could do it. So we came upon Maplewood, and then we had to figure out, well, why is it that we want to jump into woodworking? And the nature of our school is that we really value architecturally. Our windows, we're kind of right out. We have tons of windows, so we're kind of in one with the outdoors. We have 4 school gardens that the kids are in all of the time, and I'll show you some pictures in just a few minutes of that. And we have we're an environmentally minded population. So one of the things that we really liked about woodworking was it was just the medium of wood, quite frankly. A lot of STEM products and a lot of STEAM products are plastic based, and we liked the idea. In one venue, we're telling the children they shouldn't use plastic bottles and recycle the plastic bottle caps, but yet, you do any work within STEM and it's all plastic. So we really liked the idea of the medium of wood. We felt it was very natural. It was very connected. It was sustainable. It kind of felt like it was in jive with our bigger mission of creating environmentally minded students. Wood, obviously wood appeals to the senses. People walk into my room all the time saying, it smells like a wood shop in here. And this woodworking kit, it's really hands-on. I mean, the kids are touching and they're listening and they're smelling and they're learning. And the multidisciplinary opportunities, we did a whole thing on wood. Before we even started, I did 3 weeks on really trees and the parts of the wood. We talked about grain, we talked about knots, we talked about planks. We really went outside and we actually found, we found pieces of trees on the ground and we counted the rings. I had never taught woodworking before, but I knew inherently that working with wood was the way to go, and really bring those other sort of secondary skills such as patience and imagination and working with their hands with dexterity and the determination to the classroom that we wanted. And I felt like it really checked all the boxes for our STEM program.
Denise, that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just realizing, I actually just wanted to take us off presentation mode for one sec, in case there were questions that were coming up. This is part of the management, and we are good. So let's see. So please continue.
Yeah, no worries. So we determined that we were going to introduce woodworking. As I said, it was a big risk, but I didn't really see it as a risk. I saw it as a challenge. I saw it as an opportunity mostly, and putting the students first, as we always do. I sat down and I said, well, how can we do this school-wide? Because remember, we pivoted from choice opportunities in enrichment to I was going to teach the whole school the same unit and move through this sort of circular cycle for the year. So I had to create a scaffolded instructional model in which I could teach woodworking to kindergarten through 5th grade. So one of the things that just seemed very natural to me to do would be to change the project. One of the things that Schoolwide Enrichment does in STEM is always there has to be a product. We have to be building and working toward a product, and not with just woodworking alone. I'm talking any of the classes, coding and robotics, Shakespeare, poetry, newsletters, fiber arts, any of the classes, we have to be working toward a product. Because in the end, what we do is we do a little maker's fair, a little enrichment fair. And in that fair, we put out our products. It's almost like little tables, like little booths, and people walk around, and your little students ask you questions, and you have to use the vocabulary that you learned. You have to use the skills and the concepts that you learned. You have to be able to speak to what you did in that class. That's our big final product that we do. So I needed to create with woodworking. I needed to scaffold it so that the children were doing different things in each grade. That makes management easy as we move forward. But also like to really keep safety in mind. I had never taught woodworking before, so as I said earlier, so I wanted to make sure it was manageable for me. And so this is the slide here that just shows you the progression of skills and the progression of the complexity of the projects that we taught. And you know, I'm happy to say that the memory box in the 5th grade, we had our first 2 finished. Great satisfaction. They're going to use that for graduation, moving up ceremonies, and they are going to collect I'm turning them now back over to the classroom teachers, in which they're going to collect little mementos from their elementary school, and they're going to paint the sides and do all of the fun historical elementary school types activities to create these memory boxes so that they can have them forever. And the kids are just all about it. They're very excited that they got theirs done. And I will tell you that the actual woodworking in the classroom, the kids are, I'm going to show you some pictures in the next slide of the kids that work. Again, I am in the classroom with these students every day, and I just needed to make sure that they were going to be safe. And so one of the things that we do is we start with a meditation, and I have a little video that shows that. And that just gets us all grounded and focused. And I tell them it's 3 minutes of your life. You can give me 3 minutes of your life just to kind of calm yourself and get ready to start this. We spent a lot of time when we were learning about wood, then we went to safety, and now we're really hands-on into the projects. We learned one tool at a time and really practiced that tool. I also incorporated a lot of literature into it. We did for the older students, we did a lot of reading the articles that came with the kit. I read a lot of picture books to the younger students about tools. So I tried to really create this very multidisciplinary, because really, quite frankly, the math that's involved is tons of geometry and measurement. That's obvious. So I wanted to also incorporate the other aspects of literature into it. So we did a lot of reading. So here's the slide on woodworking, and these are some of our students in action. They're amazing. They hold the saws correctly, they line up correctly, they make sure that they have their safety goggles on, they make sure they hand sanitize before they touch any of the materials, before they come in the classroom. When you leave the classroom, which is our protocol for the district, is to just everyone has to be sanitized before they touch materials that are going to be shared. But they're so highly motivated and so excited. It's really not really that hard. It's very manageable and very exciting. We have a short video here that kind of shares with you. This is a 4th grade student. This is Sophia. I just love what she has to say about sawing. I just filmed this. I mean, we're in this unit right now, so this is last week. I say it was so interesting, and I asked her to say it on camera. So I'm going to ask Mike to play the video so you can hear what Sophia has to say and how satisfying it is. And here's our meditation. Us to get us centered.
You can look exactly like you want it to. What does it look like? Is it light as a feather?
Then we're going to go into some of the skills.
Jenga blocks by salt. Bend your knees. Chris, bend your knees. Good, Carolina. Keep the front of the saw down. Yes, do a nice correction. Nice correction.
It's so satisfying when you stop cutting the wood, and when it falls off.
You're doing a good job. Going. Yep, tap, tap, bang. Don't do banging until you do the tapping first. What are you doing, Carmelo? Straightening it out? What are you doing? What are you doing? Can you show me?
I'm nailing.
How you're hammering, and what are you making sure it's what?
It's halfway.
Good job. Do it on the bottom, the long side. Then you do it on the 2 short sides. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Use both hands, Rye.
Wait, how many words?
I don't know, nice and smooth with the grain. Good. Put a little muscle into it, ladies.
I just love watching that. Okay, so obviously you saw how engaged they were. They needed to meditate because they get so excited when they come in. I will tell you that what I love about that video and the slide that preceded this slide was simply that like everybody's engaged. It shows you that there's no gender bias. Boys and girls can do woodworking, and you know there's no cultural bias. There's just everybody engaged and having an opportunity to learn something new, something that they've really never done before. I'd be remiss in not sharing a small story about a student named Jaden, who is a special ed student. And he, on Monday, just finished is assembling his cell phone stand. He's in the 4th grade, and he basically, this was Monday after the vacation. So we just had spring break, and he said, "This is my favorite day of the week. This is my favorite class." And once he said that, I realized that that's why we do school-wide enrichment. We want the kids to have something to look forward to, that they know, oh, on Monday, I have woodworking, or on Monday, I have coding and robotics. And, just the excitement about learning something new, this idea that I'm going to learn something I never knew before. And I have people here to guide me through that process. So I felt like I needed to share that, because it really goes back to our overall philosophy of engagement, enjoyment, enthusiasm about learning.
Denise.
So, yes.
I was thinking, just so we have some time for questions as well, do you mind if we go through these next few slides quickly, then talk about some of the statistics you gathered? I think those might be interesting.
Sure, yeah. So this slide here is showing, this is part of our SEL, social emotional learning. We work with the Yale curriculum with the ruler. So this is us working, and we have a new meditation courtyard, kids courtyard, that we've just refurbished this year. And then the next slide is our gardening program. I thought it was important to share with you that Woodworking is a part of a bigger program. So these are just some photos of the kids. You can see some of these are pre-pandemic pictures, but this is our getting the kids outdoors. And then we did a whole nature unit this year. You can see these are a little bit of pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. We're lucky enough to have wooded areas to hike in, which I know is a luxury. We truly understand that. And that's where we learned about wood before we started this year. And then we're very excited because if you recall that one slide, the pivoting in the pandemic slide, we're just about to move out of woodworking into design and engineering. And these are pre-pandemic pictures of other groups. And then afterward, we're going to go into coding and robotics. So those are our 2 big units left to teach this year. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get to where we want to go. Often timing is an issue, especially with students being quarantined. So one of my obligations as a teacher is to dipstick and to just test the waters, see where we are. So I do this twice a year. I do it mid-year and I do it at the end of the year. So we had put out a survey this past week. And these basically, what have you enjoyed so far? And our choices were nature, coding and robotics, gardening and woodworking. And you can see here right now, the majority of them really have enjoyed the woodworking. And you can see coding and robotics is very low because actually I thought that I would have been at that point at this time of the year, but we haven't even done that. So I'm glad to see they know that we haven't done that. So that's our favorite unit. And then I kind of wanted to delve in deeper to the woodworking, and I asked them what their favorite thing was. And here you can see that sign, which I'm not surprised about. And then cutting hammering. They love sawing. They feel very grown up that I'm allowing them to use the saws, and they feel like it's a real world application. And then the following slide was just really this idea of gauging their level of confidence. Again, I told you it's part of the social emotional curriculum. And so most of them said that they felt while they were working creative and proud.
That's great. Thank you so much, Denise. It's really incredible what you've put together, and we've been happy to be a part of it. Our model is to train, equip, and support teachers to offer woodworking, so that even if you don't have a Denise per se at your school, you can still have a very successful program. And the way we do it is a lot of training. So we train Denise and her colleagues, and they've taken the ball and run with it. We provide projects and curriculum. We now have an integrated STEAM approach where we can weave in more math and more science and more social emotional learning and even social studies. And we're in the process of rolling that out in Spanish, so the program can be even more bilingual. I think Denise has covered off on all the benefits. But I think what bears repeating is that for the kinetic learner, for your sort of non-standard learner, this is an opportunity for them to shine. So Denise had mentioned hands-on, minds-on, and that's really what our program is about, is how do you engage all your students? And she also showed that it can be done during COVID with distancing. One thing we're not showing here, because it's for an older audience, is that we work a lot with career and technical education schools and helping them offer CTE while remote in partnership with the Carpenters Union. So it's a program that can scale down to kindergarten and all the way up to high school based on the audience. Now this actually is a little precursor. Here's Melanie is in the center of this photo, and that was a training we did, and they're holding the boxes that Denise was calling memory boxes. So, you know, what we find is that the hardest thing is to have great teachers. But once those teachers are in place and once they have relationships with the students, we find that 10% of the people we train have woodworking background. So it's said the other way, 90% of the people we train don't have a background in woodworking, and we help them with that. So like Denise, like Melanie, we help them introduce a new modality to engage with their students, especially the kinetic learners, maybe the dyslexic learners, the very visual learners. And so, and it's something that can sustain year over year as they grow and as teachers come and go, because that's just part of life. So another facet is that the program's been very successful in self-contained classrooms and also schools that are special education schools. So, you know, our goal with every audience is to help people have more self-confidence, foster creativity, and also help people understand that they have brilliance at their fingertips, in their hands. And so regardless of how else they're wired or what other behaviors they have, we want to help them see that there's another facet of them that they may not have discovered yet. And so we want to help you with that. And as I mentioned earlier, it may lead to a trade. So that's something that's, as this country kind of thinks about infrastructure and growth, we want to be the place where trades begin. So that's a big goal for middle school. But for elementary school, as kids are just discovering, it's never too early to help people understand different ways that they have value. So at this point, we're going to show another video, and this is Melanies Story. It's about 10 minutes, and she's going to talk about her journey of having tried woodworking on her own, and what worked and what didn't work, and then what changed when we met up. All right, I already have it loaded.
My name is Melanie Fisher, and I have been teaching art classes, and for the last couple of years I've been teaching woodworking. Brooklyn Prospect is a diversity by design school, which makes it really unique in that it was really established to get kids from really different backgrounds to sit side by side and learn from one another. And so that creates both challenges, but also a really wonderful environment for kids to learn and for teachers to teach. Never really taught woodworking, and I only knew what I had done on my own out of desperation in my art studio. But so then I just started thinking through the basics, what you need to know. Okay, you need to start with hammering, basic hammering. And so then I'm like, how do I throw this into a classroom? So I got big boards. Every day we would throw them onto the tabletops to protect the tables. I got, some basic tools. I kind of wandered around Home Depot, and I think it was great. It was pretty loose, very creative. you know, I think the kids had a great time. Yeah, and I did that for a couple years before then Ju-Man came up to me and said, I want to make this part of the regular curriculum, and I found this program, I want you to look at it with me. I looked into to Maplewood Job, and on one hand, it looked great. I have to admit, I had some hesitations. I mean, the idea of it coming in a kit is fabulous because I spent a lot of time putting all this wood on the tables and, you know, and setting it all up. So the whole idea of it coming in a box, that seemed great. I was concerned about that it was very structured. I mean, it didn't end up being the case, but that's the way it appeared. Never taught it to third graders, and so that was a concern for me. I mean, are these kids going to be too young? And then I found out third graders were not too young. It ended up being an amazing experience. The third graders, I mean, just took right to it, but I think the part that surprised me was really, Maplewood is very organized. You know, maybe you don't have to follow it, but I really tried to follow it. You know, they teach you, okay, you have the kids all enter, you know, from the left, and then get the tools, and then they leave to the right. I can't remember if you specifically say left, but you know, you have this whole system of the way kids move around the classrooms and the way they stand. Okay, make sure you have this hand back here so that you don't cut your fingers. And everything is really worked through step by step. And I found that incredibly helpful. A lot of concerns about teaching the program. I mean, aside from the fact it was third graders, I think my bigger concern was we were going to have more kids in the classroom than before, and they were younger, and they weren't self-selected kids who were choosing to be in this woodworking, which is what I had taught before, which I figured could lead to misbehavior. And so I was worried about kids getting hurt or classroom getting out of control. But I really, you know, I spent some time in the beginning really going through the Maplewood Job systems of, you know, how you move around the classroom and how you stand and, you know, how we do everything and reinforcing that. And I was surprised by how well it worked out. Really, also really helpful was I would go through those videos and I would go through the books, and it really breaks down all the steps. Which is helpful when you're teaching, because inevitably I would teach something before and there were a lot of things that didn't occur to me. You know, there's different things I liked about different projects. I think the string art was something they really learned a skill with the hammering, but then the different things that the kids decide to do with their string art was, you know, was exciting and it was fun. They could really individualize it. So I like that project a lot for that reason. I think the box, creating the box is, that was the hardest one, I think. And so I think creating that gave them a real sense of accomplishment. So that was a good project. And the cars were fun. I mean, I think they feel pretty satisfied and it's fun, and that's really individual. The thing I did a lot was, I'd have kids who were finished helping with the other kids. And then I started having kids who were really into it, having them become like ambassadors, and they would help out with the next semester. Really just started before COVID, so I didn't get a lot of time to do it, but I had a couple kids who took it the semester before who were really into it. And so I just said, hey, would you like to be my teacher assistant next semester? And they said they'd love it. And so then I was still trying to figure it out. But so when we did presentations, I would sometimes be like, okay, could you come and show how do we stand when we're hammering or sawing, or can you demonstrate it? And also, you know, in the chaos of the classroom, when everyone wants my attention when they're working, you know, I'll have them going around seeing who they could help. Different kids would really end up shining in woodworking. You know, there was one girl who was a real standout. She, you know, I don't know what she's like in her other classes, but she is very quiet, very timid, but she was very determined and very serious about her woodworking. And, you know, she would always do absolutely beautiful job and be finished way before anyone else because she was so focused, and then wants to know what she can do next. What's the next project? What else can I work on? And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for her to help out with the other classes, that she could really gain some confidence that it seemed like in the wood shop she really had, but it didn't feel like she had it in the rest of her life because she was so quiet and contained. And it was exciting to see kids like that get into it. The kids I chose to be ambassadors, I think they felt very proud and very touched and felt very important. I think it was great for them. I think it would be good if then you were continuing their contact, you know, when they're in 4th grade to the woodworking program, and that there was that slight separation. But I think it was a real confidence booster that they could be a leader, and that they could be a leader in something. Going forward with this program, ideally, what I think would be nice to do is, you know, to continue having all the 3rd graders do it, and you know, and maybe add projects, but not necessarily. It could be pretty similar. You know, hopefully I would learn from the past and just, you know, continue to deal with my management, which, you know, which is, I think, really what makes it work. I mean, aside from the fact the program is all set up. But then it would be nice to then have, you know, the 4th grade doing it, or an optional class after that, so that you could take these skills and, you know, they could do more advanced things. A real sense of self-assurance that they can do something, that they can handle something. Okay, how do I break something down and attack it and be like, you know, something that's big and scary. Okay, I can break it into little steps and I can figure out how to do it. And how do I handle these big scary tools? And, you know, and we're such a world right now where, you know, you watch things, you know, you watch your screen, you don't, you know, we don't know how to make things anymore or do things with our hands. And I think that's, it's such a sense of empowerment. And you can see that in the kids, you know, when they learn how to build something, they're like, wow, you know, that makes me feel strong that I can do that. Yeah, they're not so passive, which I think is something, you know, we all need, but even more and more in this generation. I mean, for any administrator, it's a no-brainer. Go for it, you know. And with these, the Maplewood Shop boxes make it really easy because they easily roll around. Everything's compact. You have everything you need. And then you have these, the booklet and the videos. So your, you know, your teachers, even if they don't have any experience with it, it's pretty easy to learn it, how to do it, how to manage it, how to build stuff on your own. It's really broken down and it's really compact, so you don't need to have, you don't have to dedicate a whole space to it. Risk is really small, and I think it's really empowering for the kids to learn how to do it. You know, and nowadays I think we're way too safe. You know, I mean, I taught woodworking for, I don't know, 4 years or something, and I never had a serious injury. And I am not the safest person. And I think if you follow the instructions, you know, occasionally someone's going to hit a finger, but that's part of life and learning.